Hey guys, welcome back to the wood pile actually, which is in front of the shop. It's kind of the same thing. Today we're going to talk about some knives with my brother here from Super-Custom9, little YouTube channel. He's does stuff about things and stuff, mechanics and everything else. So we're going to talk about some knives.
The first, the elephant in the room is the Fiskars axe. A lot of guys like these. I like them. I don't think they're the paragon of all axes, but they're a good, inexpensive, tough, hard to ruin axe. Now, what's your opinion on these?
Well, now, so actually, I have the splitting version of this axe, and then I have a Fiskars hatchet. So that's my personal experience with Fiskars. And right off the bat, my experience, I will say that for the money, they make it's a good axe. Couple things I've noticed is that, which is normal with production axes and knives for that matter, is that the edge on these is tempered out a little soft for some tasks. If you're just working most woods, you're okay. But if you want to go butcher out your elk and you want to hack through the pelvis or chop the horns off or whatever, I've seen these notch up pretty good. And then you were talking about some kind of hardwood.
Yeah, I actually had another one of these.
Which this is actually needs sharpened super bad. What's going on there, man?
It's called elm. So okay. I had another one of these. This is the second one, same model, same length, all that. I was screwing around on my property back there in Montana and got into some elm. As you know, it's a fairly tight grain, fairly hard.
A lot of boo-boos.
And so this is the second one, and I didn't even look closely at it, but you're absolutely right. It's rolling the edge.
It's got some edge roll along the edge. So basically, that is the number one and the biggest con to the Fiskars brand axes. And depending on what you're going to do, that could be really bad or it could not matter. So once again, you have to pick a tool that's right for your purposes. And if you're just going to be chopping some pine and whatever else, whatever, no big deal. But that is the main, and it could be a major drawback, but maybe not. So that's just up to you. Beyond that, the other con. I guess we're going with the cons here. That must mean we're negative people.
Well, I just want to. I want to know what you think of it.
This is my opinion. So that's the first. I mean, that's just based on experience. What they do. What the quality is. Another possible drawback is the non-traditional construction. But at the same time, it is very tough. Breaking one of these, unless you're doing something extremely silly or stupid, probably is not going to happen. It's the construction is very, very durable. So that is a pro. Along with that, a possible con is if you ever did break it, there's no way to rehandle it as with a traditional construction axe. And so, I don't know. I mean, those are the pros and cons in my opinion. I mean, it just depends on what you want to do with it. What you like, what your budget is. How do you get this back in, man?
Oh, it's super high tech.
It is super high tech.
The bottom line is with this axe is you're not gonna get.
What did that cost?
I think around $50. I can't remember for sure, but bottom line is for the price, for the money, for what's available on the market, this is probably one of your better options for a fairly inexpensive general purpose axe.
We really needed to have like a Husqvarna wood handled axe out here because they're a little more money, but they're almost comparable.
Yeah, well Cold Steel actually also makes a comparable axe.
Oh man, we need to have a bunch of them out here.
Camelus.
Camelus.
They actually make a pretty decent little shorter, almost like a boy's axe.
Yeah.
But this is I have this because it's probably the best one in my opinion. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty good.
I will say another nice thing about the poly handles is you don't have to worry about the shrinkage that you do sometimes with wood handle, so it's not going to loosen up on you. So there are some advantages to that handle construction.
And I will say that this is good for sub-zero temperatures and over 100 degrees.
A common misconception is that the particular steel they're using is at fault, and really that's not the case. It's the heat treat for that particular. I mean, you can get most steels up to the same level of hardness, and then they have different characteristics. It's just a heat treat process that they're using. And like I say, the production blades and axes tend to run on the softer side.
What is your opinion of this? It's been floating around on my workbench. I've carried it here and there. I've got one in the pickup. I've got them for birthdays, Christmas. Bought a couple myself. Are they worth the money, or are they
so I have one.
Okay.
What happened with the?
That's a factory second. That's why it was so cheap.
Okay, got it. Yes, it is.
The edge retention is still pretty good.
So I have one, and you know why I bought it?
Hmm.
Because it's a classic. You know how many times I've used it?
Is it a good knife or a bad knife?
You know how many times I've used it?
Probably 20 times.
Never.
Never? Oh.
Here's my experience with Buck, with the 110 folder, the classic folding.
Right.
Has a very similar clip point like this one. I was out working on a bow and drill set and starting the hole for the drill. Snapped the tip off here.
I see. I actually remember that knife.
So, it was still a usable knife, but it's not designed for that. It's designed for, skinning and so now I have to take back something I said. Buck is kind of one of the exceptions to the softer steel heat treatment rule. They tend to be on the harder side, and they're not ground for that anyway.
They're more delicate edge.
Yes, they're hollow ground. They're designed for cleaning game and this kind of stuff. So, is this an ideal all-around bushcraft / survival knife? No, in my opinion, it's not.
Is it a good hunting knife?
Is it a good hunting knife? Yes, it's designed. That's what it's designed for. And so for that purpose, it works well. It doesn't have the. It's not really designed for bushcraft per se. If you're careful, can you do that? Yes.
Would it do in a pinch?
Yeah, any knife would do in a pinch. The grip is a little square and fat for my taste.
I think it fits my hand perfectly. I got square fat hands, so it works pretty good. Not much to say though. This is definitely a classic. I mean, this has been around forever. I mean, I think I have another one that's the 50th anniversary edition or something like that. Maybe even more than that. I don't know.
But the other side of the coin is that blade's about 2 inches longer than you really need to clean big game.
But for an off-the-shelf quality hunting knife, I think, in my opinion, boys and girls, this is pretty hard to beat. This is a pretty good knife for the price. Off the shelf, they come sharpened. I mean, you could literally buy it and take it out and
yeah, it's not sharp now. What the heck?
Well, it is what it is. But
what'd you do?
Tested it.
Broke it, man.
It's factory second. You never know if it's going to be good or not.
Well, I will say this. So the trend in like tops is a great example. There's others, but the trend, the unfortunate trend in a lot of outdoors blades in the last decade has gone towards really heavy grinds and just very beefy dimensions on the blade. And the problem with that is you lose your cutting clearance, and suddenly you have basically a crowbar that doesn't really work well for cutting. I mean, and part of the reason for that is the craze with batoning. There are times and places to baton with your knife, and done sensibly, it's a useful skill. But unfortunately, I think it's been taken too far in a lot of cases, and some manufacturers have gone to a thick, heavy blade that you can, process campfire wood, with your 5-inch blade knife, which is not really what it should be for. And so,
and that kind of goes into
the Buck is not designed that way. It's designed to cut, and so I appreciate that about it, that it's designed for cutting and actually using for knife work. So
bushcraft and tacticalness have kind of merged together in the mainstream, the cheaper, lesser brands, and I think that's actually in a lot of ways brought down the quality of many products and companies. They're lower end, cheaper Walmart brand or Walmart.
Yeah, one of the big problems in the commercial knife industry is the idea that you can, and I've talked about this on my channel before, is the idea that you can get, one knife that's you're literally gonna go out and clean a brook trout, and then you're gonna go build a log cabin with the next day. It's just there's no blade that exists that is capable of that whatsoever. That's fantasy. And unfortunately, in some cases, you have different knife manufacturers who are playing on the bushcraft tactical, idea, and in my opinion, you're producing blades that are very underwhelming. And when the end user gets them, if they use them, they're going to be disappointed because they're not going to do anything well, and in many cases, not do much of anything at all. With so that's kind of unfortunate.
It's either application specific and it excels at it, or it kind of fails at everything. Moving on though.
Yeah, so get a knife that's designed for your intended purpose, and then you will be happy with the performance.
Here are a couple of tactical knives. They're folding knives, obviously not your bread and butter, but overall fit and finish, what is your opinion and thoughts? These are my EDC knives. I carry these every day, everywhere I go.
So these are both CRKTs?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good company. I actually have owned 1 or 2 CRKT blades. Excuse me. Well, I guess it depends what you're trying to use it for. Obviously, these are both very different blade designs. This, I don't know what you, this isn't really a Wharncliffe, because a Wharncliffe has a straight edge, but it's sort of a modified Wharncliffe-ish.
Right, almost like a baby cleaver in a way.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. I actually like the the finger notch here. It's actually big enough to put your finger in there and not cut yourself, so that's good.
The thinner, sharper, more pointy, stabby blade I use more for carefully cutting off parts of gasket material, opening up little packages and stuff where I have to be more precise. It holds an edge really well. They're both kind of dull right now, but
they are quite dull.
It's
terrible.
They're probably a little sharper than you think. They are deceptive, but
no, that's
okay. Well,
pretty dull.
They are pretty dull. But my point is, the more sharp, stabby knife, that's better for precision cutting and things. Whereas the thicker, shorter, heavier blade is better, much better at scraping, prying, getting in deep, cutting through rubber and things where you have to have a thicker blade and you can really put some force on it. That's why there's 2 very different knives that I carry.
Yeah, totally. Purpose driven again.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they're specific applications, and so that way you're going to receive the performance that you want instead of trying to make a knife do something that it's not designed to do.
Now, the last knife that we have here, we're not even going to break this up because it's pointless. So I thought I brought another one, but I actually brought the wrong one.
The wrong one.
So, this knife here, what do you think about this knife?
Rusty. This is an early. This is the first Wilderness Special, and they don't look like this quite anymore. The design has been modified. It's morphed into something a little different. But this is an early one, man.
It is.
What do you think about it?
I actually, I do have, there's a couple things I dislike about this knife, and I realize the design's changed a little bit. But I'm gonna say, well, one, is rusty, okay, and that's a problem.
It's not stainless. You have to take care of it. It's high carbon steel.
Right. Well, then if I put it in my backpack in the back, that's another thing too. Never take anything that's metal and stick it to the back of your backpack if you're like me, because you'll sweat through the backpack, and that's what happens. Or if you leave it in a car, hot, cold cycles, condensation, again, that's what happens. Tips and tricks, maybe we'll make a video about it. But overall, I think this is a pretty good knife. The handle's a little short for my liking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that one is.
The overall shape, I would prefer it to be a little longer and maybe have a little more dramatic curve at the end, which kind of gives a positive grip here at the I guess the heel of your hand, and maybe a little bit more flare here, because I noticed that if you're getting extra western with it, it's really easy for your finger to kind of slip over this, especially if you are doing the tactical baton method.
Yeah,
but overall, pretty good knife.
Like I say, this is the first one actually, and actually both of those concerns are addressed in the current design. So yeah, I agree. It's not.
So since we're here at your shop, do you have an updated version? We could put the first gen and the latest
I just
gen
actually
side by
sent
side.
2 out in the mail last week, so I don't.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Sorry, viewers, you can't have that.
Bummer, man.
Anyway, that has been several different knives, opinion, input, ideas, and a bonus of an axe from a professional bladesmith.
Alright guys, there you have it. So talking with my brother here about some blades, some production blades, and stuff he carries. So check his channel out, Super-Custom9. He's a heavy equipment mechanic, and among other things, builds some kydex, does some things and stuff and things.
Yeah.
So check it out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Ta-da!
Well, that was easy.